Phil in North Carolina. You're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, Eric and V. I enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for taking the call.
Yay.
Sure, thanks for calling in.
Yes, I would be, I guess, a quick history. I was agnostic for about 15 years after growing up in a very, very religious home. And my mantra was, I don't know and I'm okay. And then I stumbled on John Shelby Spong, not sure if you're familiar, but a Episcopal bishop who really casted the Christian story in a different perspective. So that was, and I would say now, if pushed, I would consider myself a Christian in the John Shelby Spong fashion. I think it's pretty harmless. I think you still get the God that so many people want. And I guess I was calling to say that the last time I Googled it, because I just think about religion and listen to you guys all the time and atheist experience and all the other stuff. But 85% of the world believes in something. You know, if we look at our history, we've always believed in something as a human race. So if 85%, even now with all the information, even looking at all the information that we see in the Bible and the holy books and the ridiculousness of it, and people still say yes. You know, burning bush, Exodus 21, if they still do that, it seems like if they're pushed to something that's a little bit more benign, or they could believe in that, it'd be a much better existence for both of us.
So here's the thing. I think the first is my mom told me as a child, if all of your friends jumped off a bridge, would you?
Right.
Right. When it comes to philosophy, this is the ad populum argument, right? It's true because a lot of people believe it. I think no matter how many people believe a thing, that actually has no impact on whether or not the thing itself is true. Mm-hmm. It just means that those people believe it.
Right.
Okay.
And so the example I would give you, because I was agnostic for about 15 years, but I was very frustrated too, because I'm African American. I would take African American friends and family through Exodus 21 and go, how in the bleepity bleep can you make okay with this? How do you make this okay? And person after person, they would twist themselves in what I call theological pretzels as African Americans to make Exodus 21 okay. And I after a while I went, there's something there. They're looking at the same bullshit that I'm looking at, but somehow they have to make it right. And I don't have that thing, but 85% of the world does. And I absolutely believe that the secular and atheists are way closer to the truth than any religion. However, I go, it exists though. 85% of the world exists, and a better way for us so we don't have to downgrade the LGBTQ community, that we don't have to downgrade women, is to be able to cast this story possibly in another way that seems like a more honest approach, and say, hey, you get most of your God, you get your choir, you get your social, but you just don't have to sit in judgment of other people. Yeah.
Do you know that in 2017 there was the USDA did a study, and apparently 7% of Americans think chocolate milk comes from brown cows, and 48% don't know how it's made. That's it's over 16 million American adults don't know how chocolate milk is made. Does that mean that we don't know how chocolate milk is made because 50% of Americans don't know?
Good analogy, but for well-being, if that's where we're all headed for, chocolate milk is that's, I absolutely believe that. But when it comes to, religion informs the way that who we marry.
So we're going around the whole Kant route of the moral argument, which is not, we're making the argument that you should believe in God because he exists, but rather we're making the argument you should believe in a God because I see that as the best course for society from a moral standpoint. Is that where we're going with this?
Partially, and then, I guess because on Atheist Experience, I forget the guy's name, but the thinking atheist guy, who I like, and I was introduced on that show, he started talking about him thinking about the utility of religion. And I think of it in much the same terms. And again, I take the Bible seriously, but not literally at all. And I mean, seriously, that, a lot of people believe in it and then kind of, there are things in there that are great and there's also nonsense. Just trying to look at it honestly. And my thing is, again, I get that the closer thing that we know how we engage the world is we probably be atheists or agnostics. However, for whatever reason, what is, just like those people I talked to in that anecdote, my friends and family, for whatever reason, we are so susceptible to believing in a God. So it's like, okay, if that's true, how do we push forward? Because I'd love for everybody to be thinking, but I just think it gives this construct where people they accept whatever personal thing and social thing, and then they add in all this BS too. And that just seems to be the way that it is.
Well, Mike, I guess I see where you're coming from. I do. Thank you for clarifying, because I get where you're coming from with that. If 85%, if a large portion of the world finds value in this and is going to do it anyway, how do we mitigate it in a way that, maybe allows them their God while also getting rid of all the bullshit? The problem there is that by saying, okay, you can have some unfounded beliefs that you don't need to back up with evidence, that opens up the gate to any belief that they want that they can then hold without evidence. And a lot of that is going to be harmful to people, right? I can believe that vaccines don't work or are harmful, and I don't need evidence because I've been told by Phil that I can believe in a God without evidence. Therefore, I should be able to believe in this lesser important thing without evidence as well. But then that directly harms me and my kids and the kids that go to the school with mine. And
yeah, that's exactly why there's a problem with viewing truth through a pragmatic lens.
Right, exactly.
Not everybody has your values, and because of that, the way that they are going to approach things is going to be different, which means that we're never actually going to be able to agree on what is true about the world. And so I don't think that, pragmatism is a good approach here. And you're moving from is to ought a lot. And those are kind of two different conversations. So first off, people are wondering exactly about this call. Phil, in the description, it says, wants to defend cafeteria Christians.
Yeah.
Well, I love that term. It definitely takes me back. For people who have not been religious, Phil, do you want to describe what a cafeteria Christian is?
Well, I only got introduced to it from you guys, and
really,
we're
perpetuating.
Yeah, it was like you, and then
crap.
Yeah. So, and I because I'd heard, even from the apologists like podcast that I could suffer my way through, they would mention it a couple times, but I really heard it from you guys. And then also I called and I say in defense, because I always, and Eric, I love your personality, but it was also kind of like a scoffing cafeteria Christian.
Because it was actually a pejorative in my church.
Right. My thing is, first of all, we're all, because to me, cafeteria Christians means picking and choosing. And just like those other Christians that chose to ignore Exodus 21, just like, they embrace the homophobic parts, but ignore the linen and the fabric parts. We all pick and choose. That's why you have so many denominations. So my thing is, can we decide on a basis of picking and choosing that is better?
Oh, geez. Okay. So I'm sorry. We've got to clear through a little faster. I didn't realize what time it was. So again, though, that's really a question of how we ought to treat people, not whether or not that God is true. And we can talk about either, but if we talk about both at the same time, I think we're going to talk past each other.
And I do think that there is value in moving people along slowly, right? We don't have to say your beliefs are unfounded and harmful, therefore you should get rid of all of them right away. That's the only option. If people are cafeteria Christianing all over the place and being like, okay, well, I'm only picking the good stuff and the stuff that works with humanist values and the stuff that's progressive, that's great. I have so many progressive Christian friends who cherry pick the hell out of their holy text, right? They just, go at it with a fucking sledgehammer. But I appreciate them because they are moving towards a future that is progressive, that is humanist, that is compassionate, and that's great. And I'm not going to say that they're doing a bad thing, but they are also opening themselves up to potential harmful thoughts because they aren't actually engaging in critical thought to the extent that it would get them out of the faith altogether. So I'm not saying by any means, and I don't think we would hold the line that if you're a cafeteria Christian, you should be a fundamentalist instead. The goal is to get you slowly out of fundamentalism if possible. And if cafeteria Christian is a stop on that journey, then that's cool. I think that it's the motivation is good there, right? The motivation is I need to make this work with the people around me and the world that I live in and have this benefit other people. Those are good instincts. And if that's the way you interpret it, that's great. But that can't be the end goal.
Exactly. And we do hold our own accountable too. Earlier on in this episode, we had somebody call in who said, should I, could I, what would be the right way to go about talking to people about this kind of a thing? Right. We do hold our own accountable. It's not a question of ought. This is a question of is. If it is just true that God exists, it doesn't matter if that God's a nice person. It doesn't matter if that God's a terrible monster. We just want to know first if that God exists, right. And then we can have other conversations about the nature of that God. And so you're kind of moving into this people should territory. And I think first, let's start with the is territory. Let's start ontologically.
And I know you guys mentioned time, so if you need to go, I can go, but I'll keep going until that.
But I'd love for you to call back in.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll call back. But I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate it too. Sure. Phil, do me a favor, man. Call earlier. I would have loved to see you at the top of the show and been like, cool, we can talk to Phil, and made sure that we had made more time for you.
Yeah, call in right at the top of the hour. Make sure you mention that we talked to you last week, and happy to talk to you again.
Yeah.
I will do that. You guys have a good Sunday.
You
as well.